So let's start a new project and see how we can set this up. We call this Unity 2D 1. And down here you can set up the defaults for 2D instead of 3D. And what this does is when you import a new texture, a new image, it's going to treat it as a sprite, which is something that we use for 2D and also for some of the physics as well. So let's do that. And if you forget about this, if you forgot, then we can also go in and go into the options later and change that. So don't worry too much about it if you forgot about this, but let's set that to 2D, create a project. Now ready. As you can see, we don't have anything in the asset. Now notice that there is this 2D button. This is new. So when you click on it, it will just show you the 2D view of your scene, and you can switch back and forth. Right. So this sort of gives you the flexibility of combining both 2D and 3D elements in a scene. Edit, project settings, and then editor. Right. This is where we can switch between for the default behavior mode, we can switch between 3D and 2D. And as I was mentioning, this is where if you forgot to set it earlier, you can do it here. Just make sure it's 2D. Okay. Now we want some 2D images in the game, right? So let's go back to 2D, and I'm going to import a file into this thing. And I'll make these available for you to download as well. So I'm going to drag the fish image into my asset folder. You can see that there is now this little button that you can click, and that's because if you click on this image, you can see that this is set to be a sprite instead of a texture. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but this basically shows you the different slices inside the sprite that you can use. Right, but that's just 1 second. I'm going to change this to a 1-column layout. It's just a little bit easier for me. I like that better. It's a bit simpler. As you can see, now we have that, and then we have this one, fish. We'll talk about that in a bit. So all you need to do is drag this into your scene. You can see that now you have a little fish guy on the screen, and you can do all the basic things you can do in 3D here in 2D as well. You can move, you can rotate, and you can scale. Right. But you notice that in the move, in the transform, a different handle, different style. Right. So for example, if we click on the camera, you see that this is a different handle, but on the fish, now we have this square looking thing with different buttons, and I'll tell you more about it in a minute. But basically that happens when the system decided, okay, this is a sprite, this is for a 2D component, and we're going to need different things for it. Now this is good because you can do scale and rotation directly on this object, which will be very handy when we start doing animations. Okay, I'm going to reset. Okay, so that's it. That's we now have a fish in the scene, and it's not animated. So another thing we can do. Also I forgot to mention, if you click on the fish and you hit play, you can see that in Unity, let's go to the 3D view. Unity automatically creates a mesh, a 3D mesh to contain this 2D image, as you can see. So it's really nice. If you want to add a collider, it can be of the exact same shape, and Unity is taking care of all the work you need to do in order to show this 2D image in a 3D world. So when we talk about Unity 2D games, you're still setting everything up in 3D, but with these added tools for you to make it easier, right? So you can see that that's sort of the boundary of that image. This is the mesh that was generated for this little fish.